world. You use them yourselves every day for login, for single sign-on into enterprise services. But our standards are progressively also being used for open banking, open data. Here in the US, they're used for sharing health records as one example, but also progressively for digital identity credentials and presenting those digital identity credentials online, as well as for allowing their issuance into different types of wallets. I wanted to kick off this panel with a couple of facts. I thought this could help building on the last panel's discussion on fraud. So from a global perspective, we lose $9.2 trillion to global cybercrime. That is a number quoted from Microsoft's head of security. That accounts for 10% of global GDP. It is an astoundingly large figure. If we brought that to the US federal level, we know from the GAO, the Office of Accountability, that there is $233 to $509 billion lost to federal benefits fraud. And we know that in the financial institution sector, where financial institutions are obliged to report financial crime, that they report on the order of $212 billion of financial crime that is directly linked to flaws in our identity infrastructure here in the US alone. Now, those figures, they start to push towards $1 trillion in the US. To put that in perspective, the US military is funded on the order of close to $1 trillion, right? So money is being stolen from everyday Americans, from good businesses, and from both state and federal governments at an extraordinary level. And it's, I think, challenging for many who may have some accountability for that figure to truly take accountability for it, because it's so hard to remediate it and to address it. And I think part of what we've heard today is that digital identity infrastructure, the standards for mobile driving licenses, are offering a critical component, a critical capability within that infrastructure to mitigate some of those harms that we're dealing with and that undermine our society. So really important, I think, all the work that these states are doing here today and AAMVA to put in place the infrastructure that we need. And we're seeing this leadership at the state level, which is fantastic, as well as many of the experts in the federal government we've heard up on stage earlier today, working very hard to continue to accelerate and deliver this work. And I know many of you in the audience have the ability to move the needle as well, and we really hope you'll lean in, because this is hard. This is hard work. There's a lot of resistance to it, but it's absolutely vital. So thank you for your service. I'd like to now turn to our amazing panelists, and I will allow them to introduce themselves in their first comments. But as you do your introductions, please also share what you see as one of the most important benefits of mobile driving licenses for governments to accept mobile driving licenses. Let me start here with David from Arizona. Can you hear? Maybe it's sound.
Good morning. I'm David Knigge. I'm the Modernization Director for the MVD in Arizona. And I'm going to try to be a little bit more upbeat than Gail in terms of what I'm going to address you. But, you know, it's interesting. MVD is, of course, an issuer, and it's been a reliant party for many years. We have leveraged some technology to do what we call enhanced digital authentication. To us, that's what MDL ultimately is. Our roadmap has us trying to use MDL almost exclusively as soon as possible, certainly driving the market. Until then, though, we've had many years' experience using the kinds of things that MDLs can offer to our citizens. Giving you just some real quick background in Arizona. Arizona is a growth state, both population-wise and in terms of our revenues. But the MVD in Arizona is much smaller than it was a decade ago. We also have many digital identity options. We have an MDL on Google, Samsung, Apple. We have a wallet-based MDL. One of the things that we've also done is we have the benefit of doing significant investment in customer experience. We're tracking a lot of our feedback from our citizens. In Arizona, we have dramatically expanded because of enhanced digital authentication, like with MDL. We've dramatically expanded our omni-channel delivery model, where we can deliver all sorts of high-risk services, self-service. We can deliver them through call centers, all sorts of ways that we wouldn't have been able to do before. What does that do? It leads to a benefit, and the benefit in Arizona that we found being a reliant party is happiness. So happiness, if you think about it, and we know this because we actually go out and talk to the citizens that we serve. They are very happy because they have an alternative in when and where they perform their services. They are picking self-service in their pajamas, on the couch and weekends more than coming into one of our offices. But what's interesting about that is not only is this, do we see significant positive feedback from the citizens, they see us as being a far more professional organization. They feel like the service was way more than they expected. There are some other interesting benefits about happiness in your customers. One of the things we also see is our field offices, because of the volume shift, have much lower wait times. So our employees are dealing with fewer grumpy, nasty people. And so they're much happier than they were before. So we start seeing this happiness cascading. Agency itself, in spite of all that growth that we talked about and the diminishment in our capacity with the staff, we have across the board higher metrics, lower costs, and even better, higher quality of service. So there's this weird virtuous cycle that starts to evolve with all this wonderful happiness. So one of the things that I would mention, and the reason I just kind of introduce it is, I know that it's just kind of inevitable to us. We see that everything we should do should be directed towards enabling citizens to pick their approach. And when we give them choice and we put them in control and provide transparency, that happiness abounds. So that's our biggest benefit from MDLs.
I love it, David. I love the happiness for the residents as well as for the staff. That's phenomenal. And remind us of your role, David, in Arizona.
I'm the modernization director.
Thank you. Fantastic. So moving on to Chrissy from Maryland, please introduce yourself and share what you see as the most important benefits.
Great. Well, thank you. My name is Chrissy Nizer. I'm the motor vehicle administrator in Maryland. I've also had the pleasure of serving in several leadership roles within our AAMVA association. And I do love the positivity. We've been in Maryland on our journey for MDLs since 2017, when we actually did a pilot with just our Department of Transportation employees. It now looks like what we call a flash pass, and certainly it's not where we are today, but it helped us understand what the customers wanted, what the community wanted in terms of great use cases. I think there's so many benefits, but I'll start what I think are the top ones. I've served in my role for 10 years as administrator and 20 years with Maryland in MVA. I've never been asked to talk about the privacy of personal information on general media, so morning talk shows. Mobile DL gets people thinking about their personal information in a way that they just wouldn't. It really captures the imagination, because the reality is the general public wants to be able to use their identity documents in this way. I can tell you from 2017, we were in a space where we had to generate the excitement ourselves, talk about it. And there were a few folks who were on the front end and they were excited. And when can we get this? I'll tell you today, we're now establishing an infrastructure within Maryland because there is such a robust conversation that's happening and so many implementation models. Likewise, we're with the three major wallets. So we're with Apple, we're with Google, and we're with Samsung, completely agnostic. It's our customer's choice. Again, happy customers who are able to determine what they want to use. But we made the deliberate decision to say that our customers are familiar with the wallet solutions, especially post-COVID. That's where payments were going. And so we wanted to offer them something that we felt would ease implementation. And so I think it really is about meeting the customers where they are. I will talk about the different implementation models, but this whole thought that Gail's raised from the beginning in terms of identity theft and the cost of that, when you think of benefit, fraud from a government standpoint, state, local, federal, it's enormous. And so the benefits, frankly, we're just not talking to the private sector. We've got so many implementation conversations happening within the state of Maryland, because we really hope to be that kind of agent that provides that identity verification for the state as a whole. So again, I think the benefits will only continue as we think about the different models that are out there, the different implementation paths that will go down.
Great. So let's move on to Georgia and Brett.
Good afternoon. I'm Brett Young. I'm the Assistant Deputy Commissioner at the Georgia Department of Driver Services. And we started off several years ago launching with Apple. And like Christy, we're in all three wallets with Google and then Samsung shortly following after. And one of the, I guess, the burdens that we have with being one of the early implementers is, it's like the first family in the neighborhood to obtain a telephone. You have nobody to call. And so we took that challenge and for a benefit, we tried to internally see how we could use that. And so, I'll go over into further in-depth detail about how we can consume the MDL ourselves so that we can increase our efficiency in a more secure transaction with our customers, and we can directly benefit while we wait for the environment to mature around us. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brett.
Yep.
Over to Ajay in California.
Testing for sound, perfect. You all have some fancy logos on yours. I don't see that in mine. That's a way it's not going to work. So Ajay Gupta, Chief Digital Transformation Officer for State of California, Department of Motor Vehicles. As part of my portfolio, there's many different things, hyperautomation, artificial intelligence, but one of the ones that I really care about is identity and digital credentials. So I'm the sponsor for the Mobile Driver License Program for State of California. And also let's call it strategy and implementation leader for our own digital wallet as well. I believe, at least for the folks on the table, California might be the only one who has their own wallet along with the native digital wallets that are out there. And that's for a very particular purpose. So in general, from benefit standpoint, I like the happiness, I like the privacy. So those are the good stories, and the cost part of it, or the kind of doing it, trying it by doing it yourself. So those are great messages, and I think we're in line with that. Fraud reduction, which you heard about in the last two sessions, cost reduction is really big for us, and ease of access. I think ease of access for both online services and in-person services is extremely critical for public services, and cost reduction comes with it. Digital identity verification or the lack of it, both cost a whole lot of money and time at both micro and macroeconomic level. So we are very focused on that cost reduction in public sector services, and I'll talk about some of that in detail. But from, in general, benefit standpoint, we want to make sure that awareness-wise, public sector entities, all the relying parties understand that not doing this now is actually costlier than adopting to it. And I do want to talk about that a little bit more, but I just want to pass on the intro and then go from there.
Before we go to Ashley, let me throw you one back.
Okay.
Unit cost, variable unit costs. What do you think it costs to accept an MDL?
Accept an MDL. So that's an interesting question. I think from relying party vantage point, there is a lot of tooling that's available at this point in time. California itself has enabled tooling, which allows the relying parties to either embed an MDL consumption for in-person use cases, but also for online use cases. The cost is that one-time cost of adopting that technology. You don't need to build it out, you actually adopt it, and it can be used in any of the states. Beyond that, the per transaction cost is really minuscule to none, depending on what scenarios you're talking about. So relying parties who are hearing this out should keep in mind that the cost of entry is low at this point in time. As adoption grows, so irrespective of what the percentage of adoption is at this point in time, it is going to grow. There's no, I mean, we get, right now we get 4,000 MDLs a day requests, and that's approvals. So it's growing at that particular rate in California. So it's going to keep going. But the cost of not doing it, that not offering the optionality to your customers, to your constituents, is going to be pretty high, both in terms of the vulnerabilities that continue in terms of fraud, but also the ease of access that wouldn't be there if you didn't offer it to that population.
Thank you. So moving on to Ashley for Virginia. Comments on your journey. I know you're about to scale up your implementation.
We have, well, I'm the Senior Project Manager for digital credentialing in the state of Virginia for the Department of Motor Vehicles. We have been in a soft launch stage with our mobile driver's license since April of last year. We are getting ready to do a full launch at the end of August. I hope and pray every day that that's when it's going to happen. Our commissioner has tasked my team with having 5 use cases when we go live, which has been extremely challenging. Those use cases are TSA, that works maybe 50% of the time, and it's their acceptance, not us. Virginia DMV, so we're going to accept our own product. Virginia ABC stores, we're going to start a pilot with them shortly, 18 stores and moving on after that. Casinos, it's a very interesting and easy use case for us. I did not realize how many times in a casino you have to show your identity, but if you win, you have to show it. And so not just for age, it's also for proof. And then the one that I'll hit on later is state police. Virginia State Police has been an amazing partner with us. They've been working with us for 3 years on this. And we just put a survey out to local law enforcement, and we have 300 local law enforcement agencies in the state of Virginia. And within 2 days of putting this out there, over 50 law enforcement agencies have asked for our training. We're providing training. We have the training documentation for them on how to accept it. And I'll go more into that later. But one of the things that I don't think everyone has talked about good benefits, but I don't think anyone's talked about this. The physical card is just a snapshot of where you were at the time you got the physical card. The mobile driver's license refreshes at a minimum of every 30 days or less, depending on the state. So what law enforcement's been very interested in is having that up-to-date information at their hands right away. That's
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ashley. And before Lori speaks, I just applaud AAMVA's effort to support every state, including all the ones referenced here. But I think you said there's 18 states that have gone live, Lori. And between you and Ian and Mike and Lafi, you've been on the front line with these states supporting their launches. I'd love to hear what you think, what you see as the benefits for the other states that aren't here.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Lori Daigle. I am the program manager for outreach and education for the identity management team at the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators. And I'm glad that I'm sitting here, on the table, and I get to listen to all these early adopters, early innovators of the mobile driver license, because they make my role at AAMVA in supporting our 69 jurisdictions even easier, because we work together in what were the challenges, what are the opportunities, how can we help other states come on board with a mobile driver license program. They help me to be able to talk to relying parties where maybe they can't be in the room, because believe it or not, they have other duties besides just the mobile driver license that they have to do within their state. So as AAMVA, as a support, we work with these jurisdictions to make certain that our MDL implementation guidelines are what states are needing, that they are up to date, and we are solving the issues that are put before us. Also, we're in the room with ISO, we're in the room with WG10. So not only are we in the room with North American issues, we're in the room globally with AAMVA, representing these jurisdictions and giving them a voice. They sit on committees that we have. So it's not us dictating to our jurisdictions, it's our jurisdictions dictating to us. And to me, that is such an important role when I'm out talking with relying parties and I'm letting them know that I understand what's happening in these jurisdictions because we are communicating with. We have a mobile driver license peer-to-peer jurisdictional group that meets monthly, and we discuss use cases, provisioning events that they can do in order to expand the adoption of mobile driver license in their jurisdictions. Relying parties have let me know that there's a 12 to 15% sweet spot in conversion of people with a physical card to a mobile driver license. And when that 12 to 15% conversion rate happens within that state, relying parties are more apt to really start looking at the consumption of a mobile driver license. We are getting there. The interesting thing too, that from an AAMVA perspective, is that I get to put together some data and some marketing, I guess, marketing facts or some marketing tidbits that the jurisdictions can take with them. And right now, of the 18 states that have mobile driver license, that is 40% of the driving population in the United States as per Department of Transportation statistics for 2023. So when you're looking at, well, it's just 18 states, who are those 18 states? What do they make up? Do they have bordering states with mobile driver license? There's so many different ways that we can talk about the benefits of adopting a mobile driver license and becoming a relying party. And these wonderful jurisdictions help us at AAMVA do just that.
Perfect. Thank you, Lori. And can you let us know how many total mobile driving licenses have been issued by these early adopting states?
Right now, there are in the wild, ISO compliant, there are 5.4 million mobile driver licenses that are ISO compliant in the wild in North America.
So it's probably several percentage points out of all Americans that are driving, will have one of these credentials. So the next question that we're going to come to is the use cases that you're seeing. Which are the most important use cases today and in your roadmap to come? And we'll go in reverse order in a minute. But I'll just point out that even though there might be only a few percentage points, what Ajay said is it's a de minimis cost to accept. And that near zero cost is better than whatever else one is probably paying today. So like even for the private sector or for the public sector for government, there's benefit in starting to accept the credentials from those first few percentage of Americans who have them. Let's go over to you get us started. Ashley.
Okay, I'm going to touch back on law enforcement again. Virginia State Police, as I said, have been working with us for 3 years now. When we did our native app, they had some very good input into it. They wanted our Virginia license is black and white. They said for a roadside stop, and then at night, it would be much better if we had a color picture on the mobile driver's license. If we can enlarge the picture, if we had info buttons explaining what all those little codes are that are on your driver's license they just had a bunch of suggestions for us, which we were happy to put in place. We are also lucky that they have iPhones because they can instantly put our verifier app on their phone, and all you have to do is go to a car and it just all happens. They take it back to their car. In the future, they haven't done this yet, but in the future, it's going to just go and load into their system. They're going to be able to write tickets in probably under 5 minutes in the future. Right now, it takes 20 minutes for a roadside stop, perhaps. So I think that time off the road, off the side of the road, is going to be huge for them.
Yeah.
So that's like what I'm really excited about. And local law enforcement is coming on board super fast. We're very excited about that. I think I mentioned the training that we put together. We put together fairly robust training for this use case that we've been able to just send out. And we're like, this is how you do it. If you want to call us, we'll help you. We will help you figure out how to implement it. We go to all kinds of law enforcement conferences. This has gotten even Department of Elections now wants to accept our mobile driver's license, which that's good, So I think you just have to start with the one use case, and it kind of starts expanding on.
Yeah. I'll just call out, Ashley, having been to enough AAMVA conferences, that I know less time on the side of the road means saving lives, right? So that couldn't be more important for our law enforcement to have this technology, not just within Virginia, but across the states, because they're obviously pulling people over from other states too.
And I know it's not common. It depends on the state law enforcement budget, but that's why we were very, very fortunate that they just happened to have iPhones, and it makes the transaction really easy. Right. Not all agencies have that.
Thank you, Ashley. Over to you, Ajay, for California. What's in your roadmap?
Yeah, thank you. All right. the problem of you're on mute is not just for virtual meetings. It's always been there, busting that myth. So we divided our use cases. So first of all, there was a particular reason why California wanted uh, its own wallet as well, which is called the DMV wallet. Along with working with the digital giants, releasing the MDL compatible product into those wallets. We also wanted to work on our own because we knew that we needed to try out a few things beyond what commercial digital wallets would support in the beginning. And that was specifically focused on public sector use cases. So along with the banking, KYC use cases, healthcare use cases, we wanted to focus on public sector. So online access, instant access, what I call as identity enabled services, and also just in general access to things. For online access, we were the first ones using the draft standards that are out there to actually enable online presentation of the MDL, which is actually a cost-cutting measure and also a fraud-reducing measure. We have lived in this world of digital and physical for a long time. In today's world, minus the MDL, you're taking a copy of a driver's license or a passport, uploading it, and then there's some either automation or manual work done. So the cost of verifying identity goes anywhere from 75 cents to $30 is based on our analysis. So we wanted to reduce that cost as well. So we enabled online use cases and also working on step-up use cases, which was talked about in the previous session, where for certain sensitive transaction, you want to verify again that your identity is legit, not just bank on like passwords or MFAs and things like that. Because those could, if they're stolen, then you have that problem of continuing to have that issue. Then instant access for our unhoused population and also for disaster recovery. We are working with respective agencies to enable instant issuance of identity and then instant verification using the issuance of those identities as well. We have actually extended the instant part of it from mobile driver license to the few and far between, the ones who do not carry mobile driver when they leave their house and disaster strikes, unfortunately, or mobile phone. For that, we created instant identity, which is very close to the principles using the MDL as well. And then there is identity enablement services. You heard interestingly, both the sessions use the word DocuSign for e-signature. It's interesting, but that doesn't really verify the identity. So you want to augment identity on top of those e-signatures. So that's what we are working on as well. Recruiting, asset transfers, and also to reduce recidivism, rehabilitation, and reentry for our correctional facilities, etc. And contact center, it's actually an idea inspired by Arizona. And then for law enforcement presentation, there are some interesting things we are working on because law enforcement has many flavors. There is the statewide, like state troopers or highway patrol. And then there is local law enforcement, like the police and sheriff's departments. They have different variations of devices and concerns. We are looking at all those concerns, all those devices that they have or not. We are actually working with one of the partners, Credence IRES, here on a completely deviceless use of the MDL as well, in case CHP doesn't want, California Highway Patrol doesn't want to carry a phone on them because they want to keep both their hands free, right? So some of those things are extremely interesting and critical depending on the jurisdiction that you're dealing with. And the final thing is access. Anecdote, I came in just for fun. I shared my MDL at the desk and there was no reader available, right? That's kind of like the awareness session. I think the previous session, the One Cosmos representative said her friend would keep trying at TSA the MDL and keep on forcing for the MDL adoption. That's what I want to do here up there. So I actually requested Credence ID who had a reader available. Now there is a reader available for you all to use your MDL, tap it or scan it outside on the table to use. So we make it a point to make sure that relying parties are aware and the adoption is there. It has to be internalized for it to really go, hopefully faster than what the digital wallets and cards went. So anyways, those are some of the things that we are working on. Final thought is Olympics is coming to California and we want to make sure events access and all that is enabled using MDL. That's our goal. And that's coming in next couple of years.
So was your credential that you presented here a Real ID compliant credential to go into a federal building? Yes? Okay, well, clearly should work, right? On to you, Brett.
Sure. I'll go ahead and start. And so I'm going to talk about what we've branded the fast lane right here. So your typical trip to a DMV, if you will, a customer comes in and they have to fill out an application. And so right now they go to an area which we call a tech deck, which is a customer using a public computer, and they're typing in their information that is then sent to our system of record. We've done a couple of studies on this, and when the person gets to the counter for us to process them, we can process them in about 3.5 to 5 minutes. The study revealed that the person filling out the information at the tech deck can take up to 10, 12 minutes right there. So that's the bottleneck in there. So it's actually a couple of efforts with it. One of them, we partnered with Credence ID to pilot having a Credence device in there to where the customer comes in and they tap and they're sent back basically a pre-populated application. It's kind of like going to a doctor's office and the doctor keeps on asking the same questions about, where you live and everything else. This is pre-populated. Everything is pretty much happy path. You just tell it what's changed. And then from there, the customer goes on for service for that. We've also implemented something that we call, it's an app clip. And I've brought an example with that over at our booth if y'all want to see that. It's a QR code. A customer comes up, scans the QR code, and they're sent back a secure link to their device. So now they're sitting down using their device, and it is a pre-populated application. They go through 6 screens and go ahead and submit. And now that is, we're consuming our own MDL by doing that. So very well received. It's right now, though, I will say it's right. We're at just about 520,000 MDLs in Georgia. 5% of the population, though, I think that's really good with one major use case. And so us being able to use that, people want to use this. They want to try it for that. One other side note use case that we have right here, House Bill 296 passed in Georgia this year, and that mandates that all law enforcement in Georgia accept an MDL by July 1st, 2027. So we're actively reaching out to all of our law enforcement agencies. There are literally almost 1,000 of them, reaching out to them so that they know, hey, what does this mean? To what full detail is it? Is it a full-blown piece of hardware that displays the customer's picture on it, on the device? Or is it something that, maybe they don't need to see that picture on that device if they're roadside? Maybe they don't need a device itself. It's a QR code or something else. Working with law enforcement to try to get that fear factor down so that we can increase the law enforcement acceptance rate.
And you have a bill as well.
Yes, that's House Bill 296 in Georgia. Governor Kemp signed it into law, and so it is law now. So yes.
That's great. And I think your peers have been taking note of that bill, if they want to do something similar. Chrissy, love to hear about your use cases and we're back.
Sure. Well, we start off like everybody with TSA. And yes, I am that annoying person too, who stands there and insists on using it. But I think it's for an important reason. And this is what it is. I cannot tell you the number of TSA agents who said, oh, that's really easy. Oh, it works. Because there's all these misconceptions out there. And the reality is, until people experience it, it's just like automated vehicles, right? Everybody has a fear of it. And then if there's an opportunity to ride in an automated vehicle, you see people lining up and wanting that opportunity. We need to dispel the myths, as the prior panel said, and get people to actually experience what it's like. Because it's not just about that TSA agent. It's also the people behind you in line who, yes, I am sensitive if there's a long line, but they're hearing this exchange and thinking, oh, there's an MDL, even though there's signs, there's an actual process that they can watch, which I think is really worthwhile. So from there, we built a state app, a verifying app. So that's out there on both platforms, on Android as well as Apple, that anybody can download. We've provided the code to other jurisdictions who are interested in having that app. And again, we leaned in this space because we feel like it's so important from an identity protection standpoint. And so we've got some really great IT developers who put it together and enjoyed being part of that space, right? And moving this effort forward. So our next implementation was at BWI Airport. All the bars and restaurants, if you fly through or in, can use your MDL to purchase an alcoholic beverage. They use phones, electronic devices to be able to do that using our app. Our next implementation was at the Montgomery County. If we have any Maryland residents who happen to live in that county right around DC here, you can use your mobile driver's license to purchase alcohol in several of their liquor stores. It is county run, which obviously made it a little bit easier for us to partner with them. But the great news is that, they are now an advocate for us. We talked earlier about convenience. They've actually done the hard work of integrating it into their POS system. So it's actually one tap. Think about doing ID verification and payment in your wallet with one tap. That's what customers want. So to observe that, to me, that's where we all want to get to, right? And granted, they put some work in to make that happen, but it's because they see the benefit of doing it. And then we've also done our in-office implementation. So we are appointment-based. So if you have an appointment, you can check in using your mobile ID at any of our branch offices statewide. So that was really exciting to have that statewide implementation with customer use. And most recently, we've implemented with Meriwether Post Pavilion, which is a fairly large concert venue in Maryland. And if you go to purchase an alcoholic beverage there, you're going to get that opportunity. But even more importantly, they're putting out in their emails, like the know before you go kind of email that you get in these venues, about MDL, because we stress to them, like, you really don't want people in your lines, like trying to download, to verify their MDL right in that moment. It'd be much better if they do it ahead of time. So they actually agreed to help us with that kind of marketing piece. And like I said earlier, we're having conversations with numerous government agencies, especially at the state level, but also with some of our military bases, frankly, here in Maryland, as many of the other states too, I'm sure they've reached out to say, hey, people are trying to present this. Again, people want to use them. And so they want to understand how they can accept the technology. So lots of different implementation use cases and a lot more to come. But again, the benefit of having that secure verification back to the jurisdiction of issuance. And I think that's really important. If I could just make that one point, there are a lot of tools out there, right? There are a lot of people marketing different solutions. MDL gives you that verification back to that issuing jurisdiction and back to the agency that verified that identity through those source documents, not only by looking at it and security features and all those good tactics, but going back to that issuing agency and doing that electronic verification that Real ID obviously requires. So to me, that's why it's so important for the protection of our customers' identity and for just identity protection in general that we continue to move forward with more use cases, because that will further grow that number of people who have MDLs when they know they can use it at different points.
Fantastic, Chrissy. And thank you for your leadership on the AAMVA side as well to kind of keep advocating for this with your peers in other states. Love to hear a bit more from you, David, on what your roadmap is for Arizona.
Arizona, one of the very interesting things in Arizona that we're looking to do is expand way beyond the DMV and have a unified identity solution for the state itself, so that every state agency, every city, every county can all avoid spending the same money over and over and over for IAM, for their citizens and for their employees, which is unnecessary. It also gets rid of the ever so horrid username password need in the world. So with .7, there's so much that can be done kind of at a unified state level to save tremendous amounts of money, tremendous amounts of waste, and make the customer experience with a single sign-on and a single account a very different experience with government. So
perfect. Thank you, David. I'm going to come back down to Lori to see if there are some other use cases you'd like to highlight.
Yeah, thanks so much. The one thing in talking with relying parties, what they're looking for is they're looking for whatever this value add is, and they're looking for, and they'll say it a lot, and it's less customer friction, seamless transactions. So in speaking with a lot of the relying parties, they are really interested in the states that have chosen to be in the digital trust service, because it's a one place. And I know my colleague Mike and Laufey both talked about AAMVA and their digital trust service, and it's one of the things that we stood up. It is it's like, I call it, we're the key masters. It's, if you're a Ghostbusters fan, if you think about, and I think someone mentioned it, the enormous amount of relying parties that could be in this ecosystem. And if they had to go out once we get 25, 69, jurisdictions with a mobile driver license, they have to go out to different places to get the key and understand that it's the right key. So I think it's not a use case per se, but it's the trust that surrounds the use cases. And when that trust is established, you unlock your mind and you can think of different ways in which you could use your identity. And you could, then the use cases start pouring out. We kind of get stuck into the age verification use case and the identity verification use case. But there are several other use cases that we haven't even thought of yet because that trust piece might be missing for us. So I feel one of my roles at AAMVA and one of the roles at AAMVA is to provide that security, that privacy preserving, that trust piece for these jurisdictions to do the good work that they are doing. I do know the payment, what Chrissy was talking about with payment. I am part of the Secure Technology Alliance, and there's a Jumpstart MDL program that works with identity and payment, that works in the banking and finance, that works in age verification. We're looking at working in the healthcare industry as well. And these groups are working to get a use case out there that you could kind of view and understand how it works, because the fear of MDL, that someone is going to take your data or the privacy isn't there, that's a myth that we do need to bust, because once we bust that myth, the ecosystem will move forward. So AAMVA will continue to work with these jurisdictions as they develop their use cases. We'll work with jurisdictions who are coming on board. We'll continue to educate relying parties on the benefits of the mobile driver license, and we'll help move this ecosystem forward in one that can be very much trusted to secure your identity and to understand who's standing in front of you or who's on the computer that you're dealing with.
Yeah, trust couldn't be more important. It's vital, isn't it? I'm going to do the last line down the line on in one moment. I'm going to make a few comments first, but if you can keep in your minds as panelists what your parting words of advice would be for the audience online and in person, what you'd like them to take away. I just wanted to give a few other headlines from what I'm observing in the private sector. One is actually applause for what NIST is doing with their 863-4 guidance, which can be of great value both to the private sector as well as to federal government entities. So it incorporates digital identity and mobile driving licenses as part of that draft, which I believe will move to publication very soon, and I'm crossing fingers it will come out very soon. Also applause to NIST for their work that Ryan mentioned on opening a bank account, and their work on the Bank of NCCOE, which can act as a proxy for the 10,000 banks in the country on how they could consume a mobile driving license and allow for that to be a technology that's available to them more easily. So bringing that to life. So fantastic work there. Also, having been part of some of the demos and interop events like the STA organization, who had an event in San Diego, Ajay and the OpenID Foundation hosted an event with hackathons where I think there are about 22 different use cases across financial services and healthcare, even social benefits for farm workers, really fantastic use cases at a very broad spectrum. I'll also mention that it was the end of April when Google announced that they were going to allow for acceptance of the W3C Digital Credentials API with the OpenID for verifiable presentation technology, which NIST has also been piloting in the NCCOE. And not only Google is accepting it for their own use cases like account recovery, but also 1Password and Amazon.com and Samsung Wallet all confirmed they plan to accept those technologies as well, and they're rolling it out. In fact, I've seen it firsthand with 3 of those organizations proving it out with interop events. We've had about 8 of them over the last couple of months, so a lot of that work in partnership with NIST. So really fantastic progress. I think we're at that inflection point now based on the great work we're seeing from many of the states here and from AAMVA and from NIST and many of the other federal state entities. I think we're going to see this, I don't know if rocket ship is the right analogy, but really an inflection point for the adoption. So quick one down the line, starting with you, David. Words of advice as we part today. We done? Overtime. I missed. Okay, one just down the line real quick. If they get off mute.
The one thing we did that accidentally that was absolutely wonderful and turned out great in terms of adoption is we also paired our implementation with a website that the citizen can get to opt out of digital ID altogether. They can pause, they can delete. They're in full control, transparent on every device it's been issued on. Of course, we don't know where you use it, but we know where it got issued to. And putting the citizen in control we have no complaints. So all crickets.
I think that's great. I think the bottom line is every place you present your physical driver's license or ID card today is an opportunity to present an MDL. And that's what we've challenged our state agencies. And I would say the same thing for the federal government. How many places do you put down a driver's license number and then somebody's electronically coming on the back end a week later, 2 days later and verifying? This is an opportunity to do that real verification essentially in real time and to have that trust, that confidence, that individual is who they're presenting and that security from a benefit standpoint. And so I think the opportunities are truly endless.
I'll be brief. I'll just say this, I think I can speak for all of us. Reach out to us. If you're a relying party and you're thinking about implementing this, we don't tell people how to use our current products, the current cards, but we are championing this because we're fully vested into this for secure identity. And we can help you just, if you have myths or if you have questions, whether it be law enforcement or a sporting venue or anything, we can help dispel those myths. So we're here to help y'all.
Thank you.
And from my standpoint, for the issuer states, just sharing with each other, I think that'll be the key. I've learned a lot from Arizona, Maryland, Georgia before we went live and continue to learn from like where Virginia's thinking and other state departments as well. For relying parties, I think it's important to have awareness. So there is a lot of resources available on all the issuer sites, not just in the US, but also internationally as well. You should look beyond what's available so you can look at the use cases, how you can enable your constituents, your customers with this new technology, which once again reduces fraud, reduces costs, and provides easy access.
Just to follow up on what Brett said about the helping reliant parties implement these and getting them in the POS system. We have, and he's in the audience out there, very curious IT architect that has figured out how to use this in several different POS systems. We buy them ourselves. He plays around with them, figures it out, puts the verifier app on that with the help from Credence as well. And we figured out you can make a Zebra work, which is Zebra barcode scanner. They're everywhere, apparently. So with a little bit of curiosity, it goes a long way. Also, when you are at TSA, please try to present the mobile driver's license. All you have to do is go up like that, and the people are truly shocked when it works. So just do that for us. That helps us a lot.
And Lori.
And to back, just in the elections use case that they came to us, we had tried to work with them a year ago. They didn't want anything to do with us. Well, several people in the Northern Virginia, we just had a primary recently. Several people in Northern Virginia tried to use it. Well, our phone was ringing off the hook. I mean, they're like, we have to have this before we have a November election. We have to have something in place. So I spent the weekend doing a job aid for them. You know, we have to be willing as issuers to help the reliant parties, but we also need everyone to try and use it so they'll be interested.
Thank you.
And the parting is in our vision statement at AAMVA. Secure identity is one of the 4 pillars that we talk about. And at AAMVA, we will continue to work with these jurisdictions and relying parties and vendors within the ecosystem to make certain that identities are secure. And the mobile driver license, more are coming. Stay tuned. There's 18 now, but by the end of the year, you're going to have over 20. So if you're not well-versed in mobile driver license, please come and talk with us. Now is the time to get some understanding about what it is, what it can do for you, and how it can benefit you, and how we are working together in this ecosystem to ensure trust, interoperability, privacy respecting, and an ecosystem that works for all.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us. Appreciate it.